started to pray, remember it and feel it, I felt like my heart just ripped open. It was that next year where I became a Muslim, alhamdulillah. Muslim oldu.
His meeting with the grandson of the famous Sufi poet and scholar Jalaluddin Rumi sparked the interest of Craig Victor Fenter, a pastor in the United States, to study Islam. Fenter eventually decided to embrace Islam by reciting the Shahada in 2006. Here is his story. Craig Victor Fenter was born in 1955 in the state of North Carolina, USA, and raised in Los Angeles. He grew up with a strong religious education background, attended a religious school, and became a pastor. For a decade, Fenter taught religious classes at universities in the United States. However, over time, he began to feel a spiritual emptiness within himself. He tried to find the cause of that emptiness, until in 2004 he met Esin Celebi Beyru, the 22nd generation granddaughter of Rumi, during a program in the United States. After learning about Rumi and Islam, Fenter became interested. He then visited Konya in 2005 at Beyru's invitation to attend the commemoration of Rumi's passing. There he witnessed Sebi Arus, the night of reunion, when Rumi united with God, which is commemorated in a special ceremony. Fenter was deeply impressed by Rumi's story, the Sufi dance known as the Sema ceremony, and the spiritual atmosphere during the event. In 2006, he decided to embrace Islam and changed his name to Ismail Fenter. Religion was very important to my family. My grandmother wanted me to become a pastor. I went to seminary to study priesthood, he said. Every Sunday, Fenter never missed going to church. However, he admitted that many things did not make sense to him at the time. I believed in God, but something felt wrong. The information I was trying to teach my students no longer made sense to me. So I spent most of my life searching. I used to teach at a seminary, but I didn't believe in what I was teaching, he said. Fenter then decided to stop teaching and leave the church to return to California and reunite with his family. He began to fill his life with studying music, but the emptiness still lingered. There was a lot of music, but my heart was empty. The applause from people was great, but something was missing, Fenter said. Then someone suggested that he meet Beyru, who was in San Francisco for a program. The meeting took place, and in front of Beyru, Fenter shared his feeling of emptiness. I told him, I feel like I'm at the bottom of the ocean. I said, I don't know where the treasure is. He said to me, you have found the treasure because you are searching for it. This statement really impressed me. Then at Beyru's invitation, I went to Konya in central Turkey in December 2005 and witnessed the Sebi Arus ceremony, said Fenter. Fenter also said he felt something special while watching the dervishes spin. He also visited the Mevlana Museum when he was in Konya. During his time in Konya, Fenter learned a lot about Islam and Sufism from Nadir Karnabuyuk, a Sufi teacher he met at the ceremony. I stopped and watched him, Karnabuyuk, and looked around while he was praying. Then he called me to pray as well. Not knowing what to do, I walked towards the Niaz Pencerisi, window of hope, said Fenter, adding that he began to pray. Then something happened. I don't know what happened, but I was astonished. I felt like my heart was torn and I cried. I felt like Rumi was calling me. I cried for hours, he revealed. At that moment, Fenter felt that this was the place he had been searching for all along, the place he needed. Rumi's path is the path of Prophet Muhammad. I knew this was the truth. I will become a Muslim next year, he added. He then visited Konya every year because he believed it was the right place to learn more about Rumi. Following Rumi's path was different from living in the US, so he decided to move to Konya. One night, a young dervish, a follower of Rumi, asked about my family and I said, my parents have passed away. He looked at me and said, we are your family. That was one of the most important things someone has ever said to me. That's why I kept coming to Konya and eventually settled there, he said. The journey toward the light of truth often begins with a deep search for the meaning of life, an unquenchable curiosity, and a thirst for answers to soul-stirring questions. This is the story of Professor James D. Frankel, a prominent scholar in the field of comparative religion at the University of Hawaii. Born into a secular Jewish family in New York in 1969, he spent his early years far from spiritual beliefs. However, a winding path of life led James to encounter Islam, a religion he had initially observed only from afar through the Quran given by a friend. From a young age, James was raised in a secular Jewish family. At the age of 13, he chose to become a communist after reading Karl Marx's works. James had a friend from Pakistan named Mansour. This friend gave him a Quran and asked him to read it. Perhaps this was James's first encounter with a Muslim. "I don't want you to go to hell," James recalled Mansour saying. At that time, James did not believe in hell. However, out of respect for Mansour, he took the Quran and placed it on a bookshelf at home. Years later, while studying in Washington, James began to abandon his communist views and question the meaning of life that had haunted him since childhood. He often pondered, why are humans born? Where do we go after death? Why do people suffer? One day he received news that his grandmother had passed away. Deeply saddened, he flew to New York to attend the funeral. It was then that James had the opportunity to ask a rabbi about the meaning of life, but he received no satisfying answer. James began searching for God and the answers to all the questions that had long plagued him. He returned to New York before the new semester started. One day, while walking in Times Square, very different from today, he noted, "Back then, you could find many preachers from various religious sects." James enjoyed engaging in conversations with one of them about religion, albeit with skepticism. He once observed a group of black men in robes praying. He approached them to ask about their ritual. One of them told James he could not join because he was a devil. According to the preacher, all white people were devils. James argued, "If I'm truly a devil, why do I keep searching for God?" Back home, James remembered the Quran Mansour had given him 6 years earlier. He immediately opened and began reading it. He found no verses declaring him or other white people as devils. He read on until he fell asleep and continued reading the next morning. The Quran provided answers to all the questions that had haunted him since childhood. It explained clearly about the creator of the universe. James felt as if the author of the book was speaking directly to him. "I've never experienced anything like this. I unconsciously cried while reading. At times, my hair stood on end. It truly felt like I was reading God's words," James reflected. In January 1990, James attended a high school reunion where friends gathered and shared life stories. When a friend asked about his beliefs, James replied that he now believed in God. His friends, knowing him as a communist, were surprised. One of them asked which God he believed in. James explained there is only one God. He shared what he had learned from the Quran, that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. Upon hearing this, Mansour immediately declared that James had become a Muslim. James initially laughed, thinking that only Mansour was a Muslim, while he merely believed in one God. Mansour explained that acknowledging Allah as the only deity and Muhammad as his messenger meant he was indeed a Muslim. James was astonished. For the first 6 to 8 months of his new life as a Muslim, he practiced Islam guided solely by the Quran and books provided by Mansour. Professor James D. Frankel's journey to Islam proves that guidance can come from unexpected directions to anyone sincerely seeking truth. From someone distant from religion and once embracing communism, James found peace and answers to his lifelong questions in the divine words of the Quran. His spiritual transformation shows that true faith arises from genuine search, deep thought, and an open heart. James's story inspires us with the understanding that Hidayah, divine guidance, is a gift from Allah, transcending race, color, and background. His life reminds us that those who sincerely seek God will be guided to a straight path. May this story enrich our faith, deepen our gratitude, and motivate us to continue studying Islam with sincerity and devotion. Tears filled their eyes. The sobs echoed through the pews of a church that had once been warmed by the sermons of a man they so deeply respected. The name Hilarion Higi, once whispered with admiration, was now shrouded in sorrow and loss. The kind-hearted pastor, the patient spiritual guide, had made a choice that stunned his entire community. He had turned away from Christ. He had chosen Islam. The moment that changed everything happened on February 22nd, 2023, when Hilarion Higi officially recited the Shahada and became a Muslim. The world watched in astonishment. Among Christians, his decision was like a bolt of lightning in broad daylight, splitting their hearts with pain and confusion. They wondered, why did he leave us? Why did he abandon the faith that had elevated him to a place of honor? But for Higi, now known as Sayyid Abdul Latif, his decision was a long journey toward a truth that had burned within him for over 20 years. "The fire of Islam has kindled my soul," he said, his voice shaking the hearts of those who heard him. "I tried to close my eyes, tried to ignore it, but the flame never died. I realized it wasn't a fire of destruction, but a guiding light." It all began at a small Islamic center, hidden in the Rust Belt of Appalachia. At the time, he was merely a spiritual wanderer, full of questions and doubt. But there, he found something he had never experienced before, a peace that seeped into the deepest recesses of his soul. From that moment, the call of Islam resonated in his heart, even as he continued walking a different path. When he finally declared his intention to convert in October 2022, a storm began to gather around his life. Those closest to him tried to persuade him to return, but Higi knew there was no turning back. Every time he looked within, he found a growing longing to prostrate before the one God, uniting in love with the Creator, humanity, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. "Islam is my home," he said, his eyes filled with conviction. "I feel like a child who had been lost for so long, and I have finally come home. It feels peaceful, like feeling the warmth of an embrace after years of cold." The welcome from the Muslim community was heartwarming. He, once a leader, now stood among them as a brother, greeted with smiles and open arms. Their hospitality, their warmth, "I've never felt anything like it before," he said softly. "They accepted me unconditionally. Their love is a reflection of true Islam." Higi had once been a Byzantine Catholic priest at the Holy Resurrection Monastery in Wisconsin, revered for his wisdom and praised for his patience. But the life he left behind is now a shadow of the past. He had dreamed of building an Eastern Christian monastery in California, a grand vision he now released with a light heart. For him, his spiritual journey had reached its true destination. After declaring his faith in Islam, his phone never stopped ringing. Messages poured in from around the world, some filled with curiosity, others with anger. "Why did you leave Christ?" was the question that relentlessly followed him. Yet with his characteristic gentleness, Sayyid Abdul Latif responded, "I never abandoned my love for God. I simply found it more deeply and truly in Islam." Now, his old name is swept away like dust from a road. Sayyid Abdul Latif has found his true home, where his heart is no longer restless and his soul no longer lost. The world may mourn his departure, but he knows this journey was the destiny that had long awaited him. And finally, he is home. Hilarion Higi's journey to Islam is a story of the courage to follow the heart's calling, even if it means leaving behind everything he once knew and loved. Amid the tears of those who grieve and the astonishment of a watching world, this tale reminds us that the search for true truth knows no bounds, and faith is a deeply personal journey filled with mystery. As Sayyid Abdul Latif, he has found the peace he had long sought. Peace in surrendering to Allah, eternal love for the Creator, and unshakable tranquility in Islam. His story will continue to inspire those who dare to walk toward the light, even on lonely and quiet roads. In the end, coming home is not about a place. It is about finding a home within the faith that ignites the soul. Major Stanislaus never imagined that his life would change so drastically. As a young bishop at the age of 30, he held an honorable position in the church, representing 8 provinces in Burundi and overseeing dozens of priests. To him, Christianity was the only path to salvation. Islam, not only was it wrong, but it was a religion he hated with all his heart. But life is a mystery. In 2013, without any intention, Stanislaus attended a debate between Christian and Muslim leaders. Initially, he came with the goal of defending his faith. He was confident he could dismantle the arguments of the Muslims present. But what happened was the opposite. His defense began to falter. The verses from the Quran recited during the debate resonated deeply within him. He started questioning the doctrines he had held onto so tightly. There was something in the Quran that I couldn't deny, he recalled. Those verses spoke with a logic and peace he had never encountered in the texts he had studied. At the time, he didn't know that the seed of truth had been planted in his heart. He attended debate after debate, hoping to strengthen his faith once more. But the more he listened, the greater his doubts became. Quranic verses about the oneness of Allah and the role of Jesus as a prophet of humanity, not the Son of God, slowly replaced his previous beliefs. He was shaken. Had he been teaching lies to the priests under his care all this time? Finally, the turning point came. With full conviction, Stanislaus decided to embrace Islam. I knew this would be a difficult path, he said. He changed his name to Major Abdullah as a symbol of his new journey. But this decision did not come without consequences. News of his conversion to Islam spread like wildfire in his community. The church acted quickly. They revoked all financial rights previously granted to him. The house he had lived in, which belonged to the church, was taken away. His reputation was destroyed. He was even accused of being possessed by evil spirits by security authorities. They wanted to see me crushed, but I found an irreplaceable peace in Islam, he said, his eyes glistening with tears. Under mounting pressure, Abdullah was forced to leave everything behind and move to Muyinga province. There he started a new life as a Muslim. Though it was difficult, he felt free for the first time. He continued his Islamic studies in Gitega and at Zawiya school, deepening his knowledge of the religion that strengthened his faith. After months of learning, Abdullah decided to take a bold step. He began preaching to Christians in the 8 provinces he had once overseen. Allah has given me the strength to change thousands of hearts, he said. Within a year, he successfully helped many people embrace Islam. In 2017, his life's journey reached a peak he had never imagined. He received an invitation from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to perform Hajj. He could hardly believe it. I asked myself, is this real? Is God truly calling me to perform Hajj? Even though I didn't have a single penny, he said with an emotional voice. When he saw the Kaaba for the first time, tears streamed down his face. All the pain, betrayal, and suffering he had endured seemed to vanish. I realized that Allah had planned everything for me. Everything I went through led me to this place. This is the truth, and I am grateful for it. Today, Major Abdullah is an inspiring figure for many. From a bishop who hated Islam, he has become a preacher spreading messages of peace and truth to the world. True happiness is found in walking the path of Allah, he said with a smile full of conviction. Major Abdullah's journey is a living testament that guidance can come to anyone, anywhere, at any time. From a bishop who despised Islam, he transformed into a steadfast preacher on the path of Allah. The challenges, insults, and pressures he faced did not extinguish his spirit. Instead, they only strengthened his faith. Now he continues to preach, spreading the peaceful messages of Islam and helping others find the truth. My life is proof that Allah always has the best plan, he said. With unwavering conviction, Maybor Abdullah moves forward, proving that true happiness can only be found in submission to the Creator.